Hello, my name is Jesse. This channel is Have Jeep Will Travel. As you can see behind me, there's a 1992 Jeep Cherokee. It's lifted, it's got a locker, it'll go places, and hence the name Have Jeep Will Travel. My goal is to go to historical places, old mines, places that are hard to get to because of the terrain, stuff that's just out of the way, and show people history and interesting geological features, such as maybe the Jornada del Muerto volcano vent, if I can get permission to go there, things like that. But either way, off that way is an old ruin called Kwastiukwa, which was the Jemez Indians. Back when the Spaniards were in charge up here, they came in and did not so nice things to some of the natives, and the Jemez fled to Kwastiukwa, which had been established well before then, but the Spaniards never found them. So we're going to go see that here in a little bit. That's one of the things that's going to happen. Anyways, Have Jeep Will Travel. If you like this kind of content, please like and subscribe and share with friends and family.
Okay, so before I continue stringing clips together from my trip up there on the way up, as well as being up at Kwastiukwa and another unnamed ruin, which I could probably find the name of, but I'm being too lazy right now, I'd like to get into a little bit of the historical context. I've got this website up, Dennis R. Holloway, the architect. Basically, it says that it was occupied from 1275 AD to 1680 AD, and it says the Pueblo ruins are located on a promontory of the Jemez Mountains, 600 feet above the river valley. I haven't measured to see if it's actually 600 feet, but I will take his word for it. It says, although this village was occupied well into the Spanish colonial period, it remained unknown to the Spanish and its location a secret. It has been called the largest Pueblo ruin in the southwest. The village was 5 to 7 stories in height, perhaps with 3,000 rooms, almost a third of a mile long. Now, I do have to be a little pedantic. There's another archaeologist who estimates that it's 1,250 rooms. That would make it not the biggest Pueblo ruin in the United States, but it would still be a very large one, and it's very cool to go see. Now, when it says 1275 AD to 1680 AD, the reason 1680 is important is because in 1680, the Pueblos got together and revolted against Spanish rule and kicked the Spaniards out for a little over a decade. They came back in the 1690s. And the irony here is that, you know, they all spoke different languages, and one of the things that allowed them to rebel against the Spaniards to organize was that they all learned Spanish and they all spoke the same language. But anyways, that's why 1680 is such an important date. If I scroll down, you can see some 3D renderings of what the village may have looked like when it was full. That one's pretty cool. Like I say, if it really was 3,000 rooms, you know, and I don't have a dog in this fight. I'm not going to jump in and say yes or no. I just know that when you get up there and you know what you're looking at, you say, wow, this place is big for what it is. Anyways, it's pretty cool. Let's get on with the video now. So now then, we are coming up on a place called the Gilman Tunnels. It's up here in the Jemez, giant volcanic complex that thankfully isn't super active, because the last time it went off really big, it would have killed me at my house like 60 miles away. But yeah, here's some tunnels that we're done through. This is a big tourist spot. I'm going to have to pull over here once I get up to this this car up here. There's somebody on the side of the road. Oh, they're pulling over. Let's see here. Yep, there's some people there. Plenty of room, mister. You've probably, if you've watched enough Hollywood movies, and I say Hollywood loosely, you've probably seen these tunnels. Either way, there's, and yes, I need a new windshield. Yeah, you look at this canyon over here that's going down, there's a stream. If you can get down there, it's decent fishing, but man, it's a heck of a hike. But I'm on my way up to a site called Kwastiukwa, and there's some other sites that they're named, I just don't know their named. Archaeological sites that have never been excavated. So there's some old Pueblo ruins, and that ought to be kind of cool. So I am taking the slow way to get up to these ruins. You can see why the scenery up here is just, you know, it's just a good, proper mountain scenery with cliffs and ponderosas. You don't see them in this, but back there were a bunch of aspens. You know, this road isn't too bad. Right now my sway bar mount is broken, so I'm not flying down the roads like I used to. It still goes. In fact, when I get into the really nasty places, it'll go better. But you know, it is a Jeep. It's not made to go fast. So, but anyways, I'll be turning off here pretty soon. Beyond that, I'm not going to tell people where this ruin is specifically, even though you can find it, because I just don't want people showing up with shovels and stuff. There was another ruin north, I think it was north of here, maybe northeast. The people showed up and started knocking like standing walls down and stuff, and just ruining the archaeology. So, you know, it's in the Jemez. You can figure it out or not, but yeah. As you can see, I mean, this road, it's not the best. I could still probably get a Honda Civic up here. There are a few places up ahead where, even though I probably won't need four-wheel drive, you definitely need the ground clearance of a four-wheel drive, otherwise you're going to punch a hole in your oil pan or something like that. But, yeah. You can see we're a little bit washed out. Like I said, I can still get a sedan up here. Not too bad. So this is where the road gets, you don't need four-wheel drive, but clearance is kind of nice. I mean, yeah, I could have gotten a Honda Civic over that again. But the road condition is going to continuously deteriorate. Even though I don't think I'm going to need four-wheel drive, I'm definitely going to want the clearance that comes with having a four-wheel drive. If memory serves correctly, this is the worst part of the road. Say I should be able to make it up this in two-wheel drive. Theoretically, I guess I don't have to come back up this. I could go around, but I don't know if those roads are open, so we'll see. Either way, you see why I say you want four-wheel drive clearance, even though I'm in two-wheel drive right now. I don't know if you heard that, but my suspension is definitely working. Be to Kwastiukwa soon. So here's some cool stuff on the way out. You can see all of this sandstone that, I guess I better watch the road. All this sandstone, and it's got all these different holes and stuff like etched out of it. I mean, if you look over here, I mean, that's just some pretty cool stuff, and pretty soon you'll come in to where there's just if you walk up to the edge, which I'll probably do before I go back home, there's just some stellar views of a canyon over there. I'm up on the rim of it, going to this old Jemez ruin. Okay, so here's that canyon. It's probably hard to see in the video. I might highlight it with some just editing. There's like I say, it's either an older forest or logging road on the other side of it. Now there's a tree in the way there, but this canyon goes on forever. This is a phenomenal view up here in the Jemez. And then you look, you see all these. This is a little campsite if you're going to camp in a tent. This is a great place to camp, but you can see all the weathering of the rocks. See that one over there. I mean, it's just hollowed out. See that up there? You can come on over here, kind of go through. This is a cool little area. Obviously you don't want to fall off the edge here, but yeah, this is really pretty. What I forgot to add was that, you know, this canyon over here, if you there was that mesa that you could see on the other side.
there's ruins over there too. There's ruins back on the way where I'm going to go. If I keep my eyes out, I'll see them. Kwastiukwa, which, depending on which estimate you listen to, is right over in that area, up on the side of that hill. Depending on which estimate you go with, it's either 1,250 rooms all the way up to 300 rooms, or 3,000 rooms, I'm sorry. If it's 3,000, it's the largest known Pueblo ruin in the U.S. If it's 1,250, it's still pretty big. And then I'm walking from my Jeep over this way to Kwastiukwa. You can see, looks like old elk scat or something like that. You know, if you think about it, 300-400 years ago, this may have been a running stream. Maybe not, I don't know. But either way, there was enough water for people to live up here a few hundred years ago without modern industrial technology like wells and pumps and things like that. But, you know, if you come and walk around the outskirts of this area, now if you can find arrowheads and things like that, but when I get up to the actual site, you're going to be amazed at how big it is. So we're at decently high altitude here. I don't know the exact number, but it's probably 7,500 or 8,000 feet, somewhere around there. And here's a prickly pear cactus. And while it's obviously not doing too well, you can see all the yellow and stuff. It does have an edible fruit. That looks like that's not doing too well either, but it does have an edible fruit, you know, prickly pears. These don't natively live up this high. They were introduced by people, almost certainly. Okay, so I'm standing on what is the north end of what used to be the walls. You can see they've rather decomposed, fallen over, of the ruins called Kwastiukwa. That berm right there used to be a main wall. People used to live there and interact in there, all sorts of things. I believe, memory could be wrong here, but if I keep walking over somewhere around here, there may be part of a roof that still has some timbers, but I'm not seeing it, so I don't know. Let me go on over to the more south end. There are places over there where you can find evidence of flint knapping, and there are places where you can't not step on a pot shard. So let's go check that out. More prickly pear cactus. This is mostly healthier than that other one, but not totally. And you can see it's got some prickly pears on it. All right, I'm here next to a ant den, but you can see here's pottery shards here, 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 here. I mean, just all over the place are pot shards, and it gets even thicker. Oh, there's a piece of some sort of volcanic igneous rock. It doesn't quite look, maybe it's dacite or something like that, I don't know. But I mean, this is just littered with pot shards, and I'm gonna go find some other places like this. Well, as you can see, the prickly pears are taking over, but here's a depression that I'm about to go into. This was probably some sort of kiva or other building, something like that, that's since collapsed. It's been a few hundred years since people have lived up here, and it wasn't exactly cemented or mortared together like the old Gothic cathedrals, so of course it falls apart. But you know, like I say, all those ridges used to be walls. This place is huge. Here you can find some more pot shards. Here's one here, white clay with dark, white clay with dark, white clay, dark. That might be a, oh, but I mean, they're just all over. Here's another one, redder color with light. Several more. I mean, you should be starting to get what I say. Here's another white with dark on it for the decorations. There's probably some full-on pots down here, which is why I'm not gonna tell anybody where this is, even though you can find it online if you look hard enough. I don't want people coming up here and disturbing it with shovels and things like that. But anyways, I'm gonna send some of this video off to a guy named Andy Ward, who specializes in ancient southwestern pottery, and see what he has to say. Here's another depression, which was some sort of structure. I couldn't tell you which. Another one over there. You know, if somebody is going to show up here with shovels, I would hope that it's bona fide archaeologists who know how to excavate without ruining. Yep. More prickly pear. Like I say, it's not native to this altitude. It was brought here by people several hundred years ago and just happened to keep on kicking. So here's another collapsed structure. This is on the north side of the ruin, kind of separated from the rest of the ruin, which you can't see too well because of the trees. You can see that mound over there that used to be walls. I'm basically standing on what used to be walls right now. You know, this is pretty slick. I'll see if I can find that piece of roof that still has the timbers. My apologies if I don't find it later. Okay, I did find it. These logs were timbers for a roof, and here you can see what more clearly looks like a structure than the mounds I've been showing you. This was obviously a wall. Looks like it was probably sunk into the ground. And these logs, which, you know, ponderosa, that looks like arborvitae, but juniperish, ponderosa. Oh, there's another wall right there too, and you can see another timber. Like I say, go to Chaco Canyon or something, and it's all excavated and put back together, or the Gila Cliff dwellings. You know, you don't get used to what ruins can look like after they've been collapsed long enough. They just look like mounds of rubble, especially these old Pueblo. And yeah, there's more roof timbers, kind of a dugout. It's got some sort of sagebrush growing out of it. But this is pretty cool up here. This is ancient history. Most people don't get to see. Again, I'm just a guy with a Jeep and a cell phone camera, so we'll see. Okay, now we're going back up the worst part of this road. I think. Like I say, I don't need two-wheel drive for this, or four-wheel drive for this. I might use it if I stall or something, but I got a locker. You know, this, like I say, this Jeep will go places. Boy. That's disconcerting. But yeah, I made it up the worst part. Two-wheel drive. If you were in a one-ton truck, you'd probably want 4-low to go back up that. But I'm not. I'm in a Jeep Cherokee, so works great. All right, this is probably going to be the last video. It's getting later in the afternoon. It's probably 6 or 6:30, but here's another ruin that I'm coming through. You know, another one with, it's being overgrown. Those used to be walls, now they're just mounds. Here's a notice. Let's go see what this notice says. There's at least 5 big ruins up here where I am. I've only found 2 of them. Ancient ruins, archaeological resources, fossils, and historical remnants in the vicinity of this notice are fragile and irreplaceable. The Antiques Act of 1906 and Archaeological Resources Protection Act of 1979 protect them for the benefit of all Americans. Enjoy but do not destroy your American heritage. Do not dig, remove, injure, or destroy any historic or prehistoric objects, ruins, or sites. Violators are subject to arrest and a maximum fine of $20,000 or imprisonment. USDA Forest Service. But you know, we can go walk around here. Like I say, you know, it looks just kind of like a mound if you're not knowing what to look for here. Overgrown, but this used to be a building, a wall, something like that. I don't know what this one is called, but it's actually a little easier to get to than Kwastiukwa. It's on your way out, or way in, I guess. But you can kind of see that, you know, I bet if I walk around enough, I'm not as familiar with this one, but I bet if I walk around enough, I'll find, oh yeah, here. Pot shard. You know, I bet I'll find a lot of similar stuff to that. But either way, there's at least 5 major ruins in unexcavated like this that just look like mounds, and you drive by and you don't even think they're a ruin up here in the general area. And then you go to other parts of the Jemez, and there are even more. And in fact, there's one that you'd have a hard time finding out where it is just online, that my dad knows where it is, and he said he'd go with me and help me find it maybe this next week. Called Kwastiukwa. It's one that I definitely won't give the location up. To say people went up and just knocked over walls and things like that, whereas, you know, I'm interested in, you know, if anything, I'd like to see this excavated and rebuilt, or just left as is. But anyways, when I get back home, I'll stitch some of these videos together, and then maybe get a little more comprehensive history of Kwastiukwa. Oh, not Kwastiukwa, Kwastiukwa, and whatever this ruin is called. Let me go over here. Yeah, from here it's a little more obvious that this is a ruin. Let me go get on top of that. But yeah, this is again ancient history. Yeah, I have no idea what this was. It's not as big as Kwastiukwa, but still pretty cool. And like I say, there's 3 more up here in the general vicinity, and I don't know where they are.